Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Fine Arts Town Hall. We're excited to have you here tonight. And thank you for joining us a little bit earlier on a 5 o'clock on a Friday. And we will be going through a series of questions this afternoon and giving you all the information that we can give you about fine arts. Before we do so, I would like to introduce our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Lloyd Verstiff. Dr. Verstiff, say a few words.
Sure thing. Thank you, Mr. Flores. And, I just want to bring a welcome. I'm definitely not the expert because our town hall this evening is really concentrated in our fine arts and our band and those programs that are just staples to our families and to our students and to our school district and community. What I'd just like to say this evening as we get this town hall underway, and it's our objective to try to really communicate with our families. And we've done this in a number of town halls starting about 3 weeks ago. And we try to bring out the most current information that we have at that time. And we do it at a district level. We do it about curriculum and secondary and elementary. And here lately, we've been able to really concentrate on some of our programs and this program, our staple program in fine arts and our UIL competitive bands and choral and all the other programs that our students are associated with. We thought it was just as important or even more important to bring information to our families and to our students, because we know that you have a lot of questions, and we know that we definitely don't have all the answers, but we definitely want to always bring our thinking and kind of frame that for our families so you have an idea as you make choices. Now, I'd like our families to understand that this is the first time in the history of all of our careers that we've ever begun a school year during a time of a world pandemic. And so we get a lot of information from different associations, Texas Education Agency, UIL, our neighboring school districts, state and local leaders, and we try to decipher how that information pertains to specifically Southwest ISD and then specifically our high schools. And we have not been short on attending several meetings throughout the summer months and weeks. And so I want to commend the staff. I'm looking at the screen. I see just a phenomenal group of people who are dedicated to their craft and dedicated to their students and community. There are frustration points in having our lives interrupted back in March, and I want to commend our staff for moving to an emergency remote environment. And the reality is we're going to start this school year off in a complete remote environment with an opportunity to phase in face-to-face students for those families who choose so over a long period of time. And so tonight's about fine arts. Tonight's about having our staff present information to you of what we know or think is going to happen at this point. I'd like our students and families to understand we are still in a very fluid environment, which means back in June, things used to change week to week. And now that we're in August, sometimes they seem to change hour to hour. And we are doing our best to keep up to date of what we can do, what we should do, what's in the best interest of the safety and well-being of our students, first and foremost, in everything that we do moving forward. And so we never forget that. And I also, I want to send our hearts and our prayers to our families who have been directly impacted by this COVID event, and know that we don't take it lightly. We know some of you have been directly impacted, and just always know that we're a Southwest family, and we laugh together, and we also mourn together during different times. So I'd like to turn this back over to Mr. Flores. I am sure he's going to introduce the rest of the panel, and then we're going to get some information, and I believe we'll open it up to some Q&A. And so I know it's really hard to open up the verbal channels during a session like this. So I think you're going to get direction on where to post your questions as you're receiving information. If a question comes to you, please be sure to post it in the appropriate area, and we're going to come back and try to answer some of those questions before we end this session tonight. So thank you, Mr. Flores, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Verstiff. We appreciate you being here this evening. I'd like to introduce our panel of teachers here at Southwest ISD that are in our Fine Arts Department. In no particular order, I'm going to introduce Ms. Carrie Dreesy, and she is our Director of Theater Department here at Southwest ISD. Ms. Vanessa Puga, who is at Southwest High School as our dance teacher and coordinator of spirit groups. And Mr. Gilbert Sanchez, who is our middle school head band director at Resnick Middle School. And Natalie Ball, who is our head director at Southwest High School Band. Mr. Miguel Ibarra, who is our McAuliffe, extraordinaire McAuliffe mariachi director. And last but not least, Miss Amanda Ballarin, who is our district band facilitator and also the head director at Legacy High School Band. So thank you all for being here. And as Dr. Verstiff mentioned, there are there's an area in the Zoom and in YouTube to be able to post your questions. And our panelists will be moderating and looking at those questions and being able to answer those along the way. And we will also have a question and answer time at the end. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and share a quick PowerPoint with you so that you are able to see our screen. And so welcome to our Fine Arts Town Hall meeting, Your Choice, Our Commitment. So a couple of things to be aware of. And number one is that Southwest ISD is going to have 2 learning models. And as Dr. Verstiff said at the beginning, from August 24th to September 4th, all of our students will be in a 100% remote learning environment. And so that means there will be no one on campus yet until after September 4th. As of right now, and as we said before, things are fluid, but as of right now on September 8th, we can have some students returning to campus to do on-campus learning, and we'll begin that if they elected to do so through the parent choice form. Also, September 8th are other students who elected to do remote learning. They will continue to have remote learning after September 8th. So what's very, very important is that all of our parents in the district, we have 13,000 plus students, close to 14,000. And what is so very, very important is that all parents make that choice on by Monday, August 17th. And there's the link to go to make the choice for your son or daughter to be electing whether they're going to be remote learning or they're going to be on-campus learning. And that will start very soon. So please make sure that you make that choice. And in that form, you will also see a choice about transportation to elect for transportation as well. So we want to make it clear to everyone that secondary fine arts participation for all activities, all of our secondary students will be engaged in remote learning, will have the opportunity to participate in extracurricular activities before or after school. So that's a really great opportunity for our students. Not all districts are electing that, and I'm so proud that Southwest ISD has taken that critical step. On-campus students will also have the same opportunity, and we will be taking additional precautions to keep all of our students and staff healthy, and we will make sure that that's happening with extra protocols that we are doing in the fine arts areas. Transportation will be provided for remote learning students of Southwest ISD to be a part of before or after school fine arts activities, and we'll go into more of those details a little bit later on in this slide presentation. And activities before and after school are essential for group success. So as you may know, with our students in class face-to-face students, there may be fewer of those students and so many more may be in a remote learning environment. So our groups will not have an opportunity to be together until we have that before or after school rehearsal. So it's essential that our virtual learners have an opportunity to engage in those groups. The social emotional learning is so important for them to join their peers. So fine arts learning during the school day is going to look like this. Students who are involved in fine arts activities will still have their fine arts class regardless of being remote or an on-campus learner. We will still be administering and assigning grades in each of our subjects. Attendance will be taken and all subjects will be required to have daily engagement. What we saw in the spring of last year is going to be different now. So last year, it was an emergency situation and some of our engagement may not have been where we would like it to be. But this coming school year, because of the requirements from our TEA and our state, we will be requiring more engagement by our students, more accountability. And our fine arts teachers are ready and waiting to make that happen with our students. Elementary students are going to remain in their class, in their homeroom classroom during the school day. So if you have younger students, they will not be traveling to and from their fine arts classroom. So their fine arts teacher will be coming to their classroom and they will still receive high quality instruction once per week in a fine arts area. So students will be responsible for assignments and they will, all of our specials teachers will be required to have weekly engagement. And here is a sample elementary schedule below. That might be a little small on your screen, but this town hall will be posted later on and you can go back and look at this for further reference. And moving on to our middle school fine arts during the school day. Starting September 8th, our on-campus middle school students will remain in classroom pods, much like the elementary students are doing. Students will go to their fine arts class during the appropriate class period, and they will be on an A-B schedule. We're going to look at that schedule in just a moment. High quality instruction will still occur and will be available for on-campus and remote learners. And all students are going to be responsible for their assignments and grades like in all grade levels. And we will be the students will be required to have daily engagement along the way every day. And a middle school schedule is following here. So as you can see in this schedule, there is an A day and a B day. So on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, we will have A day. And as you can see, on A day, the middle schools will have a short second period, and then first, and then a longer second period, advisory, and third period. Then on B days, which would be Tuesday, Thursday, they will still have that second period engagement time, plus their fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh period classes. So those will all be available to them. Now, while the students are going to be staying in their classroom, the middle school students that are engaged in fine arts will be able to leave their classroom and go to their fine arts classroom to engage in band, art, theater, choir, mariachi, all of those fine arts offerings. That is a Monday, Wednesday, Friday A day and a Tuesday, Thursday B day. So for our high school students will be starting also September 8th. We will start having on-campus high school students arriving, and they will also be on an A-B schedule. We will still have high quality instruction for both on-campus and remote learners, and all students will be responsible for their assignments and grades. And we will be, the students will be required to have daily engagement in both models. You can see here a typical schedule for Southwest High School. and Southwest Legacy High School. So on A day, you will see that we have classes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, first, second, third, and fourth periods. Then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, B days, we will have fifth, sixth, and seventh periods. And I'll leave that on there for just a moment for you to study. So you may be thinking about our safety precautions. What are we doing to make sure that we are keeping our students and staff completely healthy during any face-to-face instruction? Well, it's important to note that decisions are fluid. And what we mean by that is that things are changing almost hourly sometimes. And so we will be monitoring and adjusting our procedures, and they may be constantly changing, but we will be following our health experts and our health guidance. So one thing you should know is that all students, this is across the district, but especially in fine arts, all students on campus will be wearing masks. And we will make accommodations for students that are under 10 years old, according to the governor's directive. We will have proper hygiene and physical distancing as required, and we will have additional procedures that will be used specific to each strand of the fine arts. Students will need to have their own water for rehearsal and practices, and every rehearsal and practice will have a pre-screening and a temperature check prior to entering the practice area. So for middle school, as I said earlier in this presentation, we will have an opportunity to bring our remote learners onto campus for after school, middle school rehearsals and practices. So for our remote learners, we will have a bus that will bring all of our Southwest ISD students between the hour of 1:30 and 2:30 and bring them to our middle school campuses in time for the end of the school day at 3 o'clock. At that time, our fine arts directors will be able to hold practices and rehearsals after school. And then as normal, parents, you are used to this, after their rehearsal is completed, then you will pick them up after that rehearsal and practice. Physical distancing will occur on the buses, and students will be wearing masks at all times during their performances and practices. So high school transportation for rehearsals and practices. This is a very important thing because what's different here for high school than it is for middle school is that in high school, we will be able to have a before school practice and an after school practice. So parents in the mornings, we're talking about the mornings only. In the mornings, parents will bring students to before school rehearsals and practices at the designated time. Each fine arts director will make that decision of what that report time will be. For our marching band, for example, they may be as early as 6:30 or 7 in the morning. But maybe for our dance team, it may be a little bit later, or for our theater group, they might not have a morning rehearsal. So our remote learners then, when they finish that morning practice at 9:15, as the school day begins, then they will be able to take a bus back to their students' home. And the on-campus students will continue to follow their AB schedule. So for after school, that same bus run that was happening for the middle school students, we will be able to bring our high school students who elected to be remote learners. We will pick them up between 1:30 and 2:30 and bring those remote learners to the high school campuses for last period and after school rehearsal and practice. So they will be there for that last period. This is going to be essential for our athletes who are also going to be riding those buses, and they will be able to engage in their last period, athletic period. For our fine fine arts students, they will be able to get to their classrooms and be with their fine arts teachers until the after school rehearsal begins. And then, as usual, at the end of those practices in the afternoon, in the late afternoon, parents will pick up their students. So we will have that opportunity. Physical distancing will occur on the buses, and students will wear masks. So please be aware of that. Now, supplies related to fine arts. So each fine arts teacher is going to coordinate with their campus to distribute their fine arts supplies and instruments. So we're talking about all the way from K through 12, we will have individualized supply kits for art, and we will be providing the necessary PPE for our musicians and dancers and actors and all of our groups. So we're going to provide those supplies and instruments as needed. So collaboration with the teacher and director will take place during that time, and the students, what the students will need for their particular subjects. And Meet the Teacher is also scheduled for each campus, so we invite you to engage in that if you haven't done so already. Now, for specific questions related to your student, you can contact their teacher or their director, and you can make those connections via the various district-approved communication, such as Remind, email, etc. So for our high school fine arts activities, we do have some students that are engaged in the high-level physical activity things like marching band, dance, cheer, pep squad, and color guard. And so for those students, they will need to have a physical on file, a medical physical on file, as do our athletes. And so those groups, students in those groups will have to have that physical on file, and that will go through our rank1sport.com link. Now, each student, regardless of whether they've had a physical or not before, they will need to have a medical form. They will fill out their medical form. Those students with asthma will need to have an asthma action plan issued by their doctor. And then the athlete information travel sheet will also need to be updated for every year. Now, this year, UIL suspended the need for every student to have a physical every year. But these medical history forms, the asthma action plans, and the travel sheet are required every year. Now, there's going to be additional information that may be required for each activity. So make sure that you see that director or coach. And that physical information can also be accessed at this this tiny URL link, and also found on the district website as well. All right, and so if you have any kind of questions that are in Spanish, if you would like to ask that question in Spanish, we will be able to answer those questions as well. Moving to the next slide is that this is our time for questions, and I see that we have some folks that are they are already submitting some questions online, and we'll try to address those as we go. So we had a question here about mariachi. So are the students that are doing remote learning allowed to rent an instrument for mariachi? So Mr. Ibarra, would you like to answer that question?
Sure. Depending on what campus you are at, I know it varies a little bit, but generally speaking, if you are a 7th and 8th grader, at this time, you can check out an instrument if your school offers an inventory of instruments to check out. For example, McCullough at my school, we offer some inventory for students to check out, and for example, other campuses prefer that the students show up to the campus with their instrument, their personal instrument, ready to go. But yes, campuses do have inventories of their own. Now, every campus is different as far as rental fees go and things like that. So you may want to check closer with your respective mariachi teacher at that campus.
And it looks like we have a question here for dance. So Ms. Puga, I'm going to throw this one to you. How is dance at Legacy going to work? And I know, Ms. Puga, you work at Southwest, but I've been trying to find out some information about dance. So Ms. Puga, can you answer some general questions about dance?
Yes, sir, of course. So we are definitely coming up with a plan in order to keep them safe when we are face-to-face, but we are looking at maybe rehearsing outdoors, and there will, like Mr. Flores said, there will be screenings before rehearsal. We're going to be physically distanced and still being able to dance, but we're going to be separated and there will be contact while we're dancing. And as far as Southwest, we do plan on having rehearsals in the morning. I'm not too sure about Legacy, but you can definitely reach out to Mrs. Munguia by email to figure out what time she's thinking of rehearsing.
And on your screen, you should see my email address. So if you have further questions after this town hall is over, you can forward those to me and I will make sure and get those out to the appropriate folks. So for dance at Legacy, that would be Ms. Murguia, and I will send her those that question. So I'm going to answer the next one here. For elementary schools, will the teachers rotate classes for art, etc.? I think I covered this earlier in the presentation. So our elementary students are going to be staying in their classroom, and then our fine arts teachers will be traveling to the different homeroom classrooms. So they will not be moving about the building at elementary level. The students won't. All right. So instrument pickup for middle schools, Mr. Sanchez. So what will be the procedures for instrument pickup at the middle schools?
Hello. Yes. So for instrument pickup of school-owned instruments, we're going to try at least at our campus, and I believe that in meeting with the other band directors, they're going to try to do the same, is coordinate with the school pickup of technology. And so they're going to have kind of like a drive-by technology pickup that's going to be happening at Resnick, for example. And you can coordinate with the band director so that way they can have their instrument ready for you to pick up and for them to take home. As far as new students coming into band, we're going to have to get with our vendors and make sure that we have that set up so that way we can get an instrument rented for the instruments that are not school owned, but the ones that are school owned, of course, will follow the same procedure and have kind of like a drive-by pickup so that way the students can get it.
So following with the band aspect here, I'm going to answer this next question. So the question is, if my student elected to go remote, will they have to come to on-campus rehearsal either before or after school? And of course, parents always have the ultimate choice, but we highly encourage our students to be a part of that group. One of the things that we lost when we started with this whole COVID pandemic is that we lost that connection, not physically necessarily, but that emotional connection between our students and the teachers and to their students and vice versa. And so our groups, in order to be successful, they need to all be present. So while it is not absolutely required, we highly encourage those students to be able to attend. Now, that shouldn't be a deal breaker where someone would say, well, because I don't feel comfortable being on campus, that I should go change my elective. And that's not what we're saying at all. We still want you to be a part of the program. However, remember that parents have a choice, and parents have that choice every grading period, right? So what you elect right now, you might change your mind later on. So as things get better, and I am hopeful and positive that things will continue to get better with COVID-19, that we will have an opportunity after that first grading period that parents will start feeling more comfortable to start sending their students to school, or at least feel more comfortable sending them for that 1 to 2 hour rehearsal with that small group, and as opposed to being with the entire school community. Let's see, transportation. Good question. Ms. Dreesy, I see that you're looking at that question about if the student is remote, how do we sign up for our student to be put on the bus pickup list? It's a good question. And Ms. Dreesy,
Yes,
do you
sir.
have any insight on that?
Yes, sir. When the parents go to the website to sign up and let the school know whether their student is going to be either face-to-face instruction or remote instruction, there is a question there that asks about transportation, and you click on that and they will be able to then be able to work with the bus and where the bus will pick you up. You can also go to the website and look up information about how and when and where their buses will pick them up. And so just go through the website and answer the questionnaire when it comes to whether or not you're going to be attending on campus during the day or staying virtual.
Ms. Ball, we've gotten several questions about band boosters. Would you like to answer some of those questions about our booster program, those wonderful volunteers that we have?
Sure, I'll do my best to answer that. So one of the questions says, if athletics and band are able to start, will boosters be able to perform their duties, and will they be tested at all events? Our plan is that boosters will still be participating. There will still be events for them to participate in, whether it is a football game with a concession stand, either full or limited, or various events that we do have. We will still have our band boosters participating with us. They're such a vital part of our success. I'm sure that the district will have some sort of testing protocol for volunteers, just like we do with the students, that we're ensuring that everybody is safe and that we're not putting anybody in harm's way with these events. And
to follow up on that, there won't be, specific like testing. That is just not quite feasible to do that, but we will be doing the self-screener and doing temperature checks for all personnel that are engaged.
Good clarification, sir.
All right. Any of the other panelists, are there other questions you would like to address?
There was one, Mr. Flores. You might have kind of touched on it a little bit, but there was a question that if you have a student that's in band, do they have to come on campus for the rehearsal? And I know you kind of addressed this earlier. So each student is gonna be taught during their class period each day. So each day they're gonna be scheduled for either a band class or whichever fine arts class that they're doing, and they're going to be receiving instruction. The extra rehearsals are going to be happening throughout the year, and we're giving the option for all the virtual learners to be able to attend those rehearsals and happen. So of course, as Mr. Flores said, as parents, you still have the choice if you'd like to send them, but they are still able to participate regardless of the decision in that regard.
Thank you, sir. We have a question here for theater. Ms. Dreesy, would you address that one, please?
Yes, sir. So the question is my son is in theater, how would that work? It's going to be based upon wherever your child is attending school, and each director will have their own rehearsal times. I know that for Southwest High School, we'll be rehearsing after school, but Legacy may be rehearsing before school. Some of your middle schools may be rehearsing either before school or after school. You can catch the bus, and and get to and from school that way. And it's going to be based per school and per incident. I know that Southwest, we are going to be taking temperatures and screening students as they come in. And for us, we'll be rehearsing 1 time a week just to kind of limit the amount of time after school, at least until we get into more of a competition type flow.
Great, thank you, Ms. Tracy. Ms. Balladine, I think you saw a question in regard to grades. Can you talk about grades a bit in our fine arts areas?
Yes, so last semester we had to submit at least 2 grades per week, and we did it in a fully virtual setting once we were in March past spring break. And so we based all of our grades off of what was submitted through Google Classroom. So depending on the work that was submitted and also their participation, all grades were based on that.
Great, and I think it's important to distinguish that what happened in the spring will be, and what's going to happen this coming school year is very different than what happened in the spring. Absolutely. So students will have to be engaged on a daily basis in all of their subject areas. So, which is a little different than what happened last spring. Let's see, Ms. Ball, you want to answer the question about changing classes? Oop, I guess we lost Ms. Ball. All right, so I'll try to address that one. Will our kids change classes throughout the day? No problem. We covered this a little bit earlier. If you just logged in, no, not a problem. No worries. So if depending on the grade level, so with our elementary students, they will not be changing classrooms because they're going to stay with their homeroom teacher, and their fine arts teacher will come to them. At the middle school, there will be very little changing of classes. They're going to stay in their groups and pods in their classrooms. And then we will have, the students will be able to leave their classroom to go to their fine arts class. So there will be very little movement in the building, but they will go to their fine arts classroom to engage in those activities. And then for high school, they're going to be following the normal procedure where they will move from class to class with passing periods. Great question. So I'm going to answer this other question, although it's kind of out of my purview in regard to welding, because that falls under CTE. But I'm going to answer it because I think it's a great question. That same time I talked about transportation earlier, where students can come to school in the morning for high school, and then a bus will take them home if they're a remote learner. That would apply also to a student in CTE, whether they're in welding or ROTC students or any student that needs to have that physical engagement. They will be able to do that either at the high school in the morning or at high school and middle school in the afternoon, and then bus transportation will help them get home or get to the school in time for those asynchronous times, those times of more focused engagement outside of the school day. So great question.
One of the questions that was asked mentioned that if you chose remote learning, that it did not ask you about transportation. If you have any kind of questions regarding transportation, you feel free to contact our district transportation. They can take care of putting you on a list to have your child picked up for after school rehearsals or before school rehearsals, and they'll work out all the details with you specifically.
Great, and I've got a little bit of a message here that our Legacy Theater students will be rehearsing after school on Tuesdays and Thursdays, in case anybody was wondering about that, until 7 p.m. All right, any other questions we have not addressed yet, folks? Ms. Puga, would you kind of give us a little bit of insight in regard to like our spirit groups? So for dance and cheer and pep squad, their level of involvement with our football season, for example?
Yes, absolutely. So we still plan on participating in and doing performances, participating in football season. Our football season did actually get moved back. We'll be starting September 24th, I believe, is Southwest's first game. I'm not sure about Legacy's first game, but ours is, as of right now, September 24th. We do plan on still attending the games and still participating with that. Also, I know that cheerleading at Southwest, their rehearsals are going to be also in the morning. And Pep Squad is actually going to be, it has a class rather, but we are planning on using that rehearsal time on Tuesdays and Thursdays for Pep Squad in the morning as well.
Great. Thank you for that. I know that everything is in a state of flux with our football season. I know that I was talking with our athletic director, Pete Wagner, and they are still revamping the football schedule because of this last minute kind of delay of the season and trying to find all the right opponents and all that sort of thing. So stay tuned for details on that, folks, because that will be an evolving situation as far as our football season and how our fine arts groups are involved with that as well. I will know that there will be some limited amount of seating at our football games because of the physical distancing, much like we had to do at graduations, for example. And so there might be some limited seating that's going to be going on with that. And so we're still moving on with our football season, but we will be sure to keep everyone safe as possible. And I just was notified that Legacy's first game will also be on the 24th as well. Yes, Mr. Ibarra, I think you had something to say as well.
Nada más, si hay una pregunta en español y gustan hacer una pregunta en español, aunque no pertenezca al tema de mariachi, yo con todo gusto les traduzco a los maestros que están presentes ahorita para ayudarles. Nada más. Gracias.
Thank you, Mr. Ibarra. Muchas gracias. And as our folks are monitoring the chat, we're going to see if there's any other questions. And so going back to the question about welding, that would also apply to our ag students. Any student that is required to have that involvement, that physical involvement, like welding or ag or any of those programs in CTE, they will have that same opportunity about the transportation as well. They will be able to attend those times in the morning before school or in the afternoon after school, with transportation assisting them in one direction coming, and then parents picking them up when needed. But they will be able to participate in those things because you can't weld at home, right? So you're going to come to the campus to be able to do that. So I'm glad we were able to answer that question for you. I know there was a question here about ROTC in particular for Legacy, and that's kind of out of my zone. But I would encourage you to contact Legacy High School, and they will direct you to the correct person there. And good question about some of these CTE questions. Apparently, we will be having a CTE town hall next week sometime as well. So please tune in for that if your students are a part of a CTE. Well, we want to thank all of you. I don't see very many more questions coming in. So I'm going to, I think, start wrapping this up, or unless there's any other questions that are coming in, or if somebody needs to ask something in Spanish as well, we can do that too.
Mr. Flores, there's a question that just came in about how Southwest will handle band performances for football. We've been talking to the kids this week in our virtual band camps. We are trying, as long as it's safe, of course, for the kids to still have a performance of some sort for the games. As Mr. Flores mentioned, there will be some distancing requirements both in the bleachers and, of course, on the field. So part of this is waiting to see how many students are opting for virtual versus in person, and how many of those virtual students are planning to participate in the football games and stuff. And then we'll go from there. We have lots of good music in the students' hands that they've already been working to perfect, and we're excited to do everything that we can, of course, safely.
I also want to add to that, I guess, just for dance, we still will perform at halftime, hopefully, but we'll be physically distanced. Our formations may not be as tight-knit and stuff as they normally are. We'll have to use the football field and really spread out for our dancer teams. So yeah, it may look a little different, but the important thing is we'll still get to do our routine. So that'll be exciting.
And with theater, we will be using masks as we rehearse, and depending upon where we are in this pandemic, when we get ready to perform, we will either be performing with masks. We're trying to take as many precautions as we possibly can. Maybe we'll be doing things virtually. It kind of all depends upon where we are in the pandemic.
And with that, I think we're going to be wrapping it up. I'm going to just say a couple of words here, and then I will turn it back over to our superintendent. But we have a question, I think, before I start that, about concerts and UIL. Mr. Sanchez, would you like to answer that question?
Yes, as of right now, UIL is still scheduled to happen. It's just going to be pushed back to a later day. As far as concerts are concerned, of course, we don't want to put too many people together. So right now, they're all going to kind of be tentative, and it's going to kind of vary based on the different programs. We still want to find a way to get our kids to perform. And once it's safe for all of us to get together and have a concert, of course, we would love to be able to do that as well.
So in wrapping up this town hall, I wanted to say to everyone that you're hearing a lot from our staff here about doing what we can to get back together, to be a part of these group activities. And that's because fine arts is such an impactful thing that happens in our student lives. And we have lost out on that since March. And here we are coming into August, and we've lost that social emotional connection. But that social emotional connection happens in everything that we do every day. So yes, for safety's sake, you will elect as a parent to have your students work remotely. But I will say that they miss us and we miss them, and we want to be a part of the great things that fine arts always does. And so we encourage you, of course, with all our health and safety protocols, we encourage your students to be able to reconnect with their peers, reconnect emotionally, reconnect with their friends and their socioeconomic group, and have a great experience. We are not going to give up. Fine arts is going to be a continual passion for this team and for this district, because Southwest ISD has been known for their fine arts department, and we're going to continue to do that. And with that, I will turn that over to our esteemed superintendent, Dr. Versteff.
Thank you, Mr. Flores, and that's really hard to follow, but I'm going to give it my best shot. You know, we understand that getting some normalcy back into our lives is very important. And I would like to direct our parents to visit our website where you'll find our 5-point reentry plan appropriately named your choice, our commitment, which I think is what you heard a lot about tonight, is we are committed to our students, and we're also committed to the choice that our families make and during this pandemic of how a child will receive their education, because we know their safety and their well-being is always the most important thing. And in that process, we're going to continue to make sure that lifetime memories, which are really created in programs that you see represented here this evening, those lifetime memories still have an opportunity. Even if we have to do 100 individual concerts of one person at a time, that's the level of commitment you're going to find at Southwest. And so I'd like to invite our parents go review that plan. We also are going to propose to our school board this Tuesday night about how we recommend phasing in face-to-face opportunities. We know a few things for certain. Our first day of school is August 24th, and we know that all of our students are going to start remote. But for those families who choose face-to-face, we're going to have some phase-in opportunities during the first 4 to 8 weeks. And you know, we watched the COVID landscape here in San Antonio, Bexar County, and there are some metrics that we look at. The doubling time, how long does it take to double? How many days? I think that's at 24 right now. The positivity rate, the continuous decline of COVID positives. We want that to be under 14 days or more. And so we're putting together all those metrics inside of a color-coded rubric so that our parents can have an understanding of, if you choose face-to-face, this is, we're watching these metrics, and this is when we think it's safest for students to do so. And you know, the data is moving in the right direction. We just need to be persistent and safe, practice social distancing, practice PPE and face coverings. And the better we do with that, the more students get to have kind of a in-school opportunities along the way. And so we're committed to that. And we're going to keep talking to our families and parents. I want to thank all the staff who are here, you know, using your Friday evening to come and spend it to provide more information, and our communications department as well. We're committed to this. We're committed to our families. And some of what you heard tonight is going to change in the next few days, I'm sure. But this is our best thinking right now. And we will continue to see how things surround us, but let's keep our numbers going the right direction and take care of our kids and our families. So thank you, Ms. Flores, and that's all I have. And I don't know if you're going to end this or if you want me to. We wish all of our families a safe evening and a safe weekend, and we hope to connect with you again as soon as next week.
Good night, everyone.
Thank y'all.